blessing who has heard all Satan alone believe one.
Good night and welcome to the Workers' Voice.
Yes. Are you hearing me clear?
Good night and welcome to the Workers' Voice. So you're loud and clear.
Right, very good. Welcome. Yes. Let me say good night to everyone. This is the Workers' Voice today, the 19th of March, 2026. And time runs very quickly. I mean, if you have plans of anything, if you had plans to do XYZ, the train has left the station, and so you may just have time to catch it the next time, but that opportunity which you had may have been lost. So let me say a special good night to our listeners, wherever you are. It is the Workers' Voice today, the 19th of March, 2026. And we are here tonight again to bring to you the many issues that affect us nationally and, to ensure that the Dominican people are fed and nourished with the social contract that the UWP has signed off to ensure that we bring restoration to this economy in order that each and everyone will have or enjoy a better quality of life with what he or she, earns. And so let me say good night to those who have lost loved ones and to those who are, have persons in the hospital who are suffering at this time, or even in a caregiver's home, or whether in a home care, wherever you are, if persons undergoing some challenges, we pray that the good Lord will look over them and to bring, some sort of relief to the paining or persons who are grieving. And so let me say good night to Dominica, good night to our executive members. Let me say a special good night to Dominicans and all my friends here in the US, Warrior and the gang. I know that you all are tuned up. Praise He. And all the guys, wonderful, Bounty and the guys. I'm just beautiful, good evening to you all. Well, Doc, it has been, some time now, and we continue to do what we have to do. And I know you may have some, on the ground news, or what is the latest? Can you tell us what is happening so far with Dominica and any current issue? I mean, you're on the ground. I know we have our big rally. Not rally, we call it rally because we're so much in the mood of rally. We have our big meeting coming up this Saturday at 6 o'clock in Layu. This is the 21st of March, starting very early in Layu to end early. So we're asking each and everyone to participate, to get themselves down in Layu, so that, we continue to bring the message to the various constituencies. So, Doc, let me welcome you tonight. Tonight we have Dr. Fonte with us, and we are expected to be joined by another individual. Once the individual shows up, then he will be introduced. So, Doc, have a good night. Good night to you.
Yes, so very good night to you and to our many, many listeners, friends, supporters, well-wishers. It's great to be back on with another edition of the Workers' Voice tonight as we get set, as you said, for a big meeting taking place on Saturday from 6:30. Of course, we'll be there from 3 o'clock in the afternoon, so you certainly can come along from 3 o'clock early in the afternoon, but the meeting starts at 6:30. So we are certainly looking forward to that. We're expecting persons from across Dominica. So it's going to be a great showing again. And we are very, very much excited about this.
Oh, yes, certainly. It's something that we take pleasure in doing. For 24 years, we have been been in the Dow Jones. And everyone thinks by now we would have been, eliminated from, the political sphere. But we have been resilient. We have exercised resilience. We have exercised caution, and we are even more resolute and steadfast in bringing issues forward. By now, the Labour Party would have been glad to hear that we are not again a political party. In fact, they said they wanted to make sure that we went into political oblivion. I don't think that is the case after 24 years. You cannot put down your enemy. We are there stranded. We are there fighting hard for the people of Dominica. Because we don't do it for ourselves. We do it for the people. And whatever it takes it can be a few of us. We will do it for the people. But Doc, let me tell you, let me say first off the bat that I read some news. I don't like to deal with AI generated news. I don't know if that was the case. When I look at it, it appears to be authentic because I measure it against another source, and it seems, or it appears that it may news revealing that most likely 2 Iranians may have gotten may have gotten economic passport citizenship under the passport CBI program, and that maybe these 2 Iranian guys were involved in probably the exploitation of oil and probably some heavy investment from these trades into Dubai. I don't know if you like to say some news on that. I mean, I don't want to take it as true. If it is not true, you could also tell me.
Well. That is actually quite true. So it's a very interesting development there, because these 2 individuals concerned, they're actually the sons of one of the gentlemen, one of the very high ranking Iranians that were killed as part
Right.
of the leadership. One of their father was in the leadership of the Iranian government there, and was killed along with the supreme leader. And his 2 sons are holders of Dominican passports. They have just been cited by the office of by the American authorities that are dealing with that. They have been sanctioned. But what is interesting about all of this, and one of the things that has really put a stain, if you like, on our citizenship program, is the fact that these individuals were given different names or new names on their passports, on the Dominican passports. So if they had used, for example, their names on if they had used their names on their Dominican passports, they could not have used those passports to open those businesses, because the Iranian dealings in the Middle East and so on, and the concerns that they have, and of course the oil embargo and all the rest of it. So they would not have been able to have all of those ships that deal in the cargo, that deal with the shipment of oil. So they were able to use their Dominican passports on the assumed names to open those businesses. They opened several companies in the Middle East that were able to transport to basically help evade sanctions to those different countries. And so when Dominicans say, well, why it is that the US is picking on Dominica? Well, that's some of the reasons. Yeah, it is. The United States is at war with, and I'm trying to get the name of the high-ranking officer. I'll get that for you in a while. But here it is. The United States is at war with Iran, rightly or wrongly. I mean, that is a different question altogether. But the United States is at war with Iran, only to find out that Dominica, and then there have been sanctions in place for many, many years. And Dominica has in some ways facilitated the evasion of these very serious sanctions that were placed against the Iranian regime. So that's a problem for the Dominican government. But the US, and that's the reason why the US has acted so strongly against Dominica, to the point where now they have imposed visa restrictions. They have now stopped the issuing of green cards to Dominicans, to the point where now if you're going to apply for a visa, when the suspension is lifted, as we expect it will be at some point, where you'll be able to get new visas when the suspension is lifted, you are going to find that you have to pay a bond, probably of up to $42,000 to get a visa. And not only that, but the 10-year visa is a thing of the past. So any Dominican holder of a passport, a Dominican passport, will no longer be entitled to 10-year visas and unlimited entry into the United States. It is now restricted to 3 months and single entry. So every 3 months, you have to come up with your $42,000. Obviously, if you travel and you come back, you'll be refunded. But it's not clear how long that refund will take place. So if you have to go back on quick notice, you may have to go with an additional $42,000 before you get what was due to you before. So all of that and that is why, that's one of the reasons, very solid reasons, why we are in the position that we are. because you feel that this government has been very, very careless with the CBI program. I remember seeing where the promotion for the CBI program, the CBI program was being promoted as not only getting a second passport but getting a second identity. That was promoted. Years ago, so before the CBI programs, if you were a criminal and you wanted to get a false document, you had to go through a lot. You had to pay some expert who could forge, who could forge a passport, or probably get somebody's passport, replace your picture, and so on. They would have to go through a great length to get that document in a different name. Now, here it was, Dominica, along with some other countries, says, okay, you want a passport? Well, we'll give you, not only will we give you a passport, but we'll give you a new name that you can do as you wish. And that, to me, always, even when years ago, when I first started reporting and talking about the passport program, always felt that was a major, major issue. That name change, where persons were allowed to change their names, and there were passport agents who were promoting that on their websites. That was a big part of the law. There was a big part of what was attracting people to Dominica and to his passports program, the fact that they could get a new name. And here it is, an example of two individuals who are the sons of this very high-ranking officer who was killed by the United States government, and now his sons having benefited from this. So we are good. Let me get you the name.
So his name is Ali Shamkhani. Ali Shamkhani was, of course, a political advisor to the...
Right, he was a political advisor, yes. Senior political advisor, yes. So,
Ali
one of
Shamkhani,
the Shamkhani, very senior advisor to the Iranian government, to the thing, and then he was killed during the U.S. and Israeli airstrikes on Iran. That, of course, as we know now, claimed the lives of the Supreme Leader Khamenei and other top officials. Now, yes?
I know sometimes, and not sometimes, if we are getting a passport, or if one is sorting a passport, right, and you have the application process, you file for it, you actually put in all the information, then you must get someone to sign on your behalf, stating that they know you for a period of time. Most likely somebody of standing, and authenticate, and say, look, yes, this is Glenroy Coffey, that is the true image and likeness of Glenroy Coffey, and in fact, this is him, I know him for 20 years. Now, in this case, when you're applying for citizenship, the procedure remains the same with respect to filling up a form. Who signs on behalf of those persons, seeking citizenship? Because one person told me that they have in their possession some forms that a lawyer did in Dominica, and if actually some staff in the lawyer office actually was signing for persons who came from either in the Middle East or somewhere.
Yes.
You do not know that person. How then you can put your signature stating that you know that person from so much a longer time? This thing is, and the person said to me that whenever the inquiry begins with that passport thing, that person is willing to come forward with the document or documentation. Because it's really high time nonsense.
Yes, but so it is okay if you are giving a person's new identities. Okay, in other words, you are starting from scratch. You're a different person. So in this case, and if you come back to this case, the guy's name was Hossein Shamkhani. Shamkhani, yeah. Hossein Shamkhani. The US is now saying that and that's how the US identified him. The US identified Hossein Shamkhani as a citizen of Dominica under the name of Hugo Hayek. So that's a fiction. That is a new person that's been created. So it is okay now for the lawyer or his assistant in his office, or the agent assistant, to sign for that person, because you're creating a new person, right? you as far as you're concerned, this is not Hossein Shamkhani. This is Hayek. This is Hugo Hayek. Even
Yes, I
given a
understand.
Spanish,
But
even
my
given a,
scenario was the case where that happened before. It's not in that scenario. And it will apply to this now because you're explaining it. But what I told you earlier on, or what I revealed there, is that prior to that, whether the person had their real name or not, persons in the lawyer office, they were signing.
were signing, right. So what that tells you, and that is where the US had concerns about due diligence and so on. If you're going to do due diligence, one of the best ways is to have a what we call somebody to vouch for you. Say, yeah, you are the person. That is you. But that obviously was not done, and now we are suffering. We are paying a very high price, for the indiscretions of this government. This government has failed the Dominican public. Now we are suffering big time because students can get visas into the U.S. and the list goes on. Travel to the U.S. is seriously curtailed, and where families are.
Yes.
So can we take this call because the person has been consistent? So
no problem. We can take the call. We're interacting tonight. Good evening, caller.
Yes, so good evening. Hope you're doing fine, and good evening, Doc.
Yes,
Yes,
good evening.
I am. Thank you.
Doc, based on your explanation, even though the person is applying on a new name, I am Edwin Cotsenval, and then I apply as James John. Whoever signed have to say they know James John for a certain period of years.
No, but James John is just created. You've just created a new person. That's
what I'm saying, the person is just created, but you have to say you know that person for a number of years.
Yeah.
So to me, it doesn't make a difference because you still have to know new person has been created for a number of years, 1 year, 2 years, 3 years. You get my
yes. I hear what you're saying. But obviously that was not done because the whole thing broke down. The whole recommender issue broke down apparently.
Okay.
Yeah. I think that's where the problem is. The whole question, because as you said, there is now apparently allegedly evidence of persons signing right there, probably in Dominica, signing for persons who were born in the Middle East and elsewhere. And so I think it is just beginning to come to light because as we go on with that conflict between the US and Iran, I believe we'll be pulled more and more into it because we have heard, or it's alleged that several top-ranking operatives of the Iranian Revolutionary Guard unit, the guys, the military of Iran, that a number of them had in fact received Dominican passports. So they're everywhere, probably posing a security risk, to the U.S. interests and so on. So more and more we're going to be pulled into this, and more, and I believe as long as we have the CBI program, we are not going to see any way out as far as the U.S. is concerned. I think the U.S. is going to apply the screws even more on Dominica. I expect when the review comes up in June, I expect that they may move, and I say may because you're not certain, but I believe that the way this thing is headed, and if all of those revelations coming forward now, that we very well might see a total ban on Dominicans coming into the United States. And yes, that is a very likely possibility now, a total ban. Now we have a partial ban. Persons can still travel. If you have a visa, you can still travel. It is possible that we'll have a total ban because it is getting worse. The reasons why the U.S. took this action is becoming more and more evident. Caller, you can go ahead.
Caller, go ahead. Go right ahead. Good evening.
Yeah. Where's the credible evidence that top-ranking people of the army have our passports? Why are you doing those things?
You see, that is the same thing. That is the same.
You see that? You don't like facts. You don't like facts.
We had, years ago, I reported, and it was never refuted. I reported that we had an embassy there was an office in Iran that was opened up for Iranians. That's so right. It is not far-fetched to allege that high-ranking officers as we saw here, these are two individuals. Yeah. These two individuals, the son of the advisor, that's just two that we know of. But an office was set up to trade in Dominican passports in Iran. Okay, and a number of persons were applying for passports. So it is likely, and that's why I said alleged. It is alleged, and more information will be coming in. So when the real names of some of these individuals are revealed, as the U.S. was able to find out that Hugo Hayek was in fact Hossein Shamkhani, the same way they will be able to find out, or they will be able to find out who the others are. So I would just urge the caller to be patient. Ultimately the information will come out.
There's
no question about
it is interesting that a number of persons are already in defense mode. Let us put on the record that citizenship by investment program, it is not new. In fact, I remember that started on the Freedom Party, and then you had the Taiwanese, at least they started that area, and some persons got citizenship then. The United Workers' Party came in and we re-engineered the program in that we were not satisfied that the money was being spent justifiably. And so we re-engineered the program whereby an escrow account was set up. So therefore, when you sell, the money goes to the bank or into an escrow account, and the investment that the person ought to undertake, what will happen is that you'll have drawdowns of the funds to do that investment, like it was the case at Lai River Hotel. And so you had more accountability in that because you could do what they call phase development, in that you come, you say, well, I did that phase, I achieved this milestone, and then now I am on phase 2. Here are my bills, let's reconcile that I have spent money justifiably. It is now approved. And then now you get approved now to get monies to draw down to go to the next phase.
So all the lines are going. If you don't like,
let's go. Let's go.
Yes, caller. Good evening.
Yes, good evening, sir. Good evening.
Good evening, Dr. Fountain. Tuesday on Global View, I call, and I was saying I hope that Paris they come and kill them officials and whatever, they did not get Dominican passport. And tonight I hear you talking about they have Iranian have Dominican passport, the big official and them. We are in serious trouble with America. Derek lying a lot. That's why we in that problem. God bless Dominica. Thank you.
Yes, indeed. Okay. Let's go back also. So we have another caller. So
yes, let's take the calls. Barrage of calls tonight. We on. Let's go.
Yes, caller. Good evening. Welcome to the Workers' Voice.
Members, Fireman touching base.
Yes.
I come into that I don't want to waste too much time because I know so like me because I don't support this party, but like only from my country, I love all of I don't support
it.
We love you too. My point a little bit. Listening to me well?
Yes, we hear you.
Yes, some of what happened in the world of Uncle Chum, I call him my uncle, my greatest uncle, they are a very dangerous man. Based on what Uncle Chum doing in the world today. If he was the prime minister of any country, after all what Uncle Chum doing, even class of your visa, as you just say, and as you just say earlier on that, if you praying for Uncle Chum, so we will stop this CBI. But anyhow, it was a prime minister after all what Chum doing here. And Uncle Chum would tell you that he's going to give you 5 people to come in your country and stay. What you do you side pass it or you go forward with the flow? Up and running, fireman when I listening to you up there. Bless up.
Okay. It's a good question you ask. The problem is, and as you've seen, the countries have very little choice. I don't know of any country that has pushed back on accepting people, and there are reasons for that. Especially if you're compromised. If you're not compromised, for example, you have not troubled the United States, you have not done what, for example, we have done in Dominica and Antigua is accused of doing, and other countries like that, then it's a lot easier for you to say no. But when you have compromised your standing the way these countries have, it's a lot more difficult. So I can tell you, if I was the prime minister, I would not have gone the way this country has gone in terms of the way that they've carried out the CBI program. I've always maintained that we do not need a CBI to really prosper this country, that we have the resources that can grow and develop and build this country in the absence of the CBI. And also, let me just correct you, caller. I did not say that I was praying for Trump to end the CBI. I was saying that the CBI is going to come to an end regardless. What I did say is that it is very likely that based on everything that is developing now, this new revelation, because when you read the headlines, that the person that allegedly ran a shipping empire that generated billions of dollars for Iran and Russia, and that this person was found to have real estate in Dubai using alliances or using fake names on a Dominica passport, then that tells you you're in big trouble. All right. So, that is what we have. And it's very, very, very unfortunate also. But I can tell you this, though, that this is just, to me, the tip of the iceberg. I expect a lot more, because what is happening now, the U.S. is digging very, very deeply. I can guarantee you, as we speak, the U.S. is going through that list of names of persons who've been issued Dominican passports.
That's
They're
right.
going through that with a fine-tooth comb to see who on these are Iranians, where they are in the world, because obviously, as we said, there is a threat that Iran might retaliate with terrorist attacks and so on. The U.S. have said, in fact, they've fought it for. They've been able to stop 4 attacks in the United States, and you can rest assured that the security services are working overtime to identify these people, and they must be going very, very carefully through the list of persons who hold Dominican passports and trying to determine exactly where they are. So we've put ourselves in that position, and it is very, very unfortunate, So at the end of the day, so the difficulties that Dominicans are experiencing now. And, we can talk everything about the United States. The fact of the matter is the majority of Dominicans alive today outside of Dominica reside in the United States, the overwhelming majority. I have been able to do scholarly work on migration patterns of Dominicans out of Dominica. And I can tell you that the vast majority of Dominicans outside of Dominica live in the United States. So that means something. It shows that the United States has been the country of choice for many, many Dominican families over the years. And all of that is being threatened right now by the actions of this very irresponsible government.
Yes, and I'll go back to that. I'm happy that you cleared the air, because you never said that you want the United States to stop any program. And caller, we allow you, but do not be so malicious, because we know that what CBI has been doing. What we do not know is the amount of money that the true amount of money that came in to the country, and knowing that the government boasts they sold the most passport in the history of CBI, and the amount of passports sold just cannot match up with respect to revenue generated, and that's where the concern is. And so I was saying earlier on, just to finish up, that based on that, the escrow thing that gone, the Labour body came in, they put in their thing, and they talk about right now. I know it's $200,000 plus in the state fund, or right now you have the option of a real estate portion of $200,000 US. And right now, I think now they will be doing their due diligence, and within 6 months you should be able to get approval. But yeah, what's happening before, Doc? And I'd like you to get a chance to react to this. Some time ago, and that is why this government has been selling itself to be the best in everything. And at one time, I heard them a couple years ago, they said that Dominica had topped the CBI program for the past 3 years consecutively. But it's only when I read a document talking about the CBI index, I realized it wasn't about the best vetted program that you get the first position. It was about, less stringent measures with respect to due diligence. And so Dominica was actually topping that for 3 years, and they kept boasting it. That look, we top CBI. But Dominicans did not understand it was the CBI index that was spoken about. And when we found out that it was actually, the Dominica could have done that for 3 consecutive years, topping the CBI list in terms of the most sales, because Dominica had the less stringent measure. And exactly that's how they marketed themselves. But for someone who doesn't know, they would have been on the news boasting that, look, we are number one with respect to CBI. Not number one by means of proper vetting and detailed vetting and due diligence, but number one in terms of quantity sold, not quality sold.
You know, it's very interesting, Susan, and I'm making a further link there as we started with the story about, and we'll go back to our lines. In fact, I'll come back to it after this caller. Yes, caller. Good
Yes,
evening.
caller, let's go. Good evening.
Yeah, good evening. Good evening. Dr. Conklin. Good evening. I just listened to a little part of the conversation about the passport process. And I think having a little understanding, a little bit of understanding of how the United States operates and seeing what happened with the situation with Venezuela and now Iran, and you hear the president talking about the next country is Cuba. And as much as Cuba didn't want to admit it, they are under an embargo that is putting so much pressure on the Cuba government that they are forced to have a conversation with the American government. What that tells you is things in the Caribbean are going to change. They are going to change. I think the world is on a transition point, and it seems like every 100 years or so, we have this kind of leaders and events that causes people to rethink their position, their value, who they are as a people, and what can they do to survive the ever present quest for dominance, power, and so on. Having said that, Dr. Thompson Fontaine, if you look at history and you look at some of the countries, there are some key players that have always been involved. You talk about Angola in the 79, we had Angola, we had Ghana, we had the revolution in Iran, by the way, who was where the United States supported the Shah of Iran with the same set of people, with the Jewish and I am listening through the media and seeing what is happening. And one of the things that have is the fact that in our Caribbean region and South America, there are about 698 million people, which I mentioned on a different show, represent markets, represent talent, represent human resource capital that is on tap. With all what is going on, with the splinter that seems to exist in CARICOM, if you were to become the Prime Minister of the after the next election, what are some of the things that you would do to, one, help the Caribbean region or the CARICOM region realize its true potential? And how would you navigate the ever-present United States and the massive and now the multi-down philosophy that's infiltrating more and more in the Caribbean and the pragmatic? How would you navigate this geopolitical situation? Bearing in mind that we have also in the Caribbean region a huge population that has largely been untapped since our independence at the end of colonial days and South America. How would you navigate that and moving forward with all what's happening and the Caribbean? I'd like to hear your take on that.
Thank you, caller.
Okay, thank you very much, caller. You know, these are very, very detailed questions that have been raised, you know, in terms of the relationship with CARICOM, how we cultivate that relationship, and also the question of how do we navigate the current environment with the increasing or improving influence of China, and how does that play? So like it or not, so we're in the middle of this, what we call a big term, a geopolitical battle or situation now. And what this means in basic terms is that because of the competition between these two superpowers, all right, obviously China and America, because of that competition between them, countries like Dominica and CARICOM countries, we are caught up in the middle of this. We are caught up in the middle of this because we have, at some point, governments have taken sides. So, for example, we know that in Trinidad and Tobago, the previous government sided more closely with China. The current government has clearly cut ties and is focused, showing support clearly for the United States. Countries like Dominica has shown a greater favor. The government has shown a greater favor for China against the US. So you have those situations, and if you go down the chain of islands, you have that situation where countries, by virtue of the relationships and what they can either get from those countries or their bilateral relations with them between the two countries. That's what we mean by bilateral, dealing with those country to country relationship. They have chosen sides. So that complicates matters, because up to now it was okay until President Trump came in and decided that people have to take sides, because President Trump is going back to a doctrine that was introduced by President Monroe, what they call the Monroe Doctrine, which basically says that the United States, the backyard of the United States, nobody should interfere with that. That there should be no superpower influence other than the United States in the Caribbean and Latin America. That has always been unspoken, but President Trump, because of his style of leadership, has really brought that to the fore. So he's come down very strongly and says that you have to make a choice. You're either with me as the United States or you're with China, and you have to choose. So the question then becomes, how do you choose? Now, that's where it gets interesting. And the question the caller asks is, what would I do? Well, the first thing, the way I would look at it is to say, well, what is in the best interest of the people of this country? Okay. What is what relationship works best? Is it a relationship with China, a relationship with the United States, or a relationship with neither? What works best for the people of Dominica at this time? And I think that is what should be driving that relationship. Okay. What are we benefiting when you, for example, so what I would do in a very logical manner, I would look at the benefits that we derive from the Chinese compared to what the Chinese derive from us. So we're looking at the benefits that we get from the Chinese presence in Dominica and what we benefit from them and what they benefit from us, and compare that to what the United States benefits us and what we get out of United States benefit. And I would really compare those two and see what makes more sense in terms of where that relationship should be. Or I would ask the third question: can we maintain a neutral position where we are selecting neither one or the other? But if one superpower says you must choose, you have a choice, and we absolutely have to choose, then what do you choose? At the end of the day, it has to be what is in the best interest of the Dominican public. So as I speak, I want every Dominican to consider this. What currently is in the best interest of Dominica? Having a relationship with the United States, or have the United States a relationship with the Chinese, or neither the United States or the Chinese?
Yes, I think you asked some relevant question, but we have one of our guests in the studios. We have Mr. Davis George with us. And Mr. Davis George, good evening to you. I know you don't need introduction again because Davis George. Mr. Davis George is the caretaker of the Paybush constituency, and from time to time, when he has the time, he does come on the show, and I know he does a lot of work in his constituency. And so, Davis George, I know the people are longing to hear something from you. Last time you were there, a number of persons were impressed, and they said they like the work that you do. So probably now you can tell us what is happening and what preparations have been made for that upcoming big meeting that we are going to have in Layo.
Good evening, so good evening, Dr. Fontaine. Good evening to my constituency, the constituency of Paybush, Calibishi, Benz, Ansdemi, and Solda.
That's correct.
Before I go into anything, I just want to extend my deepest sympathies to Mr. Kare Joko.
Wow.
His wife passed and she'll be buried on Saturday. So, I want to extend my deepest condolences to her, to him and his family, and to the entire community, because she was a very nice person to them, to the community. Also, I would just want to send out greetings to the people that are listening right now. I know Leon is listening in Paybush. She's glued. She tell me, Dave, let me tell you, I just miss a program, She's listening, man. And also Mr. Austre's Coral Reef, Chris, in Calibishi down there. They always listen. They always listen to our program, man. And they always tell me, it's just they are just so happy that they can hear something from the United Workers Party, some different thought, and that always make it good, But yes. So I mean, we are having a big meeting coming up on Saturday, and preparations are in high gear. I will be in the community. Hopefully tomorrow afternoon I should be around in the community, because in the morning I have a couple of tours that I have to do. Yeah. So I'll be around in the afternoon, and hopefully on Saturday again. Be around and mobilizing people again to get ready for the meeting on Saturday evening. So they can rest assured that will be real.
Yes, thanks. But Doc, before you play Baba Hule, Doc, I know you love to hear that, because people want to hear Baba Hule advertisement. Baba Hule advertisement is very good. So I just ask Dave a question so you can get prepped for the Baba Hule break in a while. But yes, Mr. Davis, and so what it is like in the Calibishi, or you could say the Paybush constituency, because to be honest, for a number of years now, this community has been dominated by agriculture, and obviously you have a lot of businesses in Calibishi and some areas in Pence, and so small businesses. I know you have a number of shops, you have a number of guest house, and you have a number of entrepreneurs envolved in different modes of business. How is it like? How are things moving? Is there some economic sort of good turnover? What is happening? What are you hearing? What are they telling you?
So in short, the people they tell me they have seen better days. In short, they have seen better days, and it is not what it used to be, right? At present, if you pass in the community, the young boys, they are around, they are expats in Calibishi who would go around the restaurants and get a meal. That is still happening, but it can be much better because the numbers are speaking. So we have seen better days. We have seen better days. We know better days, right? And this is just the reality of the situation. They always say that Dave boy, things are rough. Things are rough. In terms of agriculture down there, boy, the market, the inputs, it's just not readily available for the farmers. I myself do my little farming too in Calibishi, and labor, inputs, the best price. It's just not there, right? And I believe with a government of the United Workers Party, and if you can recall back in the days in the 90s under the United Workers Party, we always push agriculture, and if it was for the United Workers Party alone, I think agriculture would be right up there. Agriculture would have been much more taken care of. The farmers, because when the farmers have money, that money circulate.
Right.
But these days it's difficult. You go up on the farms and you see a lot of farms just they're idle. So things can be better, and we know things can be better under a United Workers Party.
Yes. But at this point in time, we will take a break and we will run our ad to just sensitize our people.
Yes, we'll take the break. So after
Yes.
this caller, caller, good evening.
Hello, good evening to you.
Good afternoon, and Mr. Fountain. And
Oh, yes, sir.
Hi,
Good evening to you, man. Very good. Thanks. Welcome.
So you asked Mr. Davis a question a while ago about the progress down this side of small business, Benz, Calibishi with Fortil, Marigot. I saw a product today from Benz, from a man, I don't know his name. He seems to be processing different variety of flour. Very excellent, and it's amazing when I look at that product. I don't know his name, but somebody showed me a product, and it's out of the world. I didn't think it was turmeric powder, but it's pumpkin powder, which you can just make like a soup. You just put it in the pot and you make a soup, and do other varieties. And I'm very impressed with our people. When I look at a group of Dominicans that producing top quality, and one of the things I'm trying to find out from the businessmen in Dominica, the supermarkets, the drugstores, I think they need to help us to put some of our products. I mean, my products is in some of the business, but much more. And I believe a big empire supposed to be in Roseau, especially to sell our products. I've been calling for that for the longest while. Mackenzie did it some years back, after we do a training under the European Union project. That was Gateway. But I would want to see that happen. And I was just listening to agriculture news this afternoon, I think, sports, and they were speaking, one of the person was speaking about somebody who died, I think the man that owning Italian restaurant.
Oh, yeah.
He was part of how you call it, farm to market, and Afi and them had a farmers cooperative.
Small assistance project, SPAT.
Yes, and they joined together and they buy a boat and they were shipping things all over. And this man here, Italian, was in charge of that. He was a field officer. But I'm calling for those things for a while, and I don't know why the people in authority don't listen. I just don't know why. You've seen what happening with food in Venezuela, in Cuba, in Haiti. It's just around us there, and even the Prime Minister, I told him he has to set up his own food security. I don't know why they're not paying attention to even in the local industrial people. Funds are there, funds are limited. I mean, I tell them, if you have money in the bank, you buy a property in Roseau. Look at that prime property right in front of courts. And it's just one name you're buying all these properties. So why the government don't buy a property and put in small business? When rain falling, you cannot sell. The tourists come here, the tourists want our product. They want our entertainment. So you remember some years back, Mr. Audin Bully talk about developing the gardens in a outside world for the tourists by putting in waterfalls and sports inside of the gardens, and he was going to bring the indigenous people, because if you leave out the indigenous people in tourism and sports and agriculture, the products have no value, and our music. So you are man that going up for roads, so it's something you're supposed to do. There are a lot of empty lots, and I know, so you know the owners of those lots, and I know you can get those lots. Even if just to set up something temporarily still, I'm begging, because, we're going down the hill, and I mean, I don't know why the authority doesn't listen. I don't think it's because of certain voice, they don't listen to certain people. I don't know why. It's been a breakdown, so I really, if I was a little young, I think I would leave this place for me, because have a good night.
Yeah, but let me just respond to that quickly, because you made a good point. I have come on several programs and I said, look, the way it is, I have checked 199 plus empty lots in Roseau. That would include houses that are not in good condition. We call them derelict houses. And I've made certain proposals. I said, look, this is what you do. The city council is there. They can work in harmony with the landowners. And we can use them to develop certain vending cubicles. And we could even barcode the cubicles. So therefore, now that will be a chance for those empty lots to be cleaned up, but it will also be a chance to sanitize Roseau, to make sure that you give it a nice outlook, roadside outlook. And then if you want to color code them and say orange is for what they call agricultural produce, you say green is for maybe craft and whatever for other things. And also too, the proposal of some lots that may able to hold car parks. I know there are some sizable lots that can at least take 10 cars. So if you have at least 50 lots that can take 10 cars each, that's about 500 cars already off the street. But not only just taking up the cars off the streets for others to park, you are actually taking cars out of the street and you actually developing Roseau with respect to fixing the sidewalks, fixing up the roads, and to ensure that things happen. I made the proposal again in Roseau. I talked about it. I don't have the resources, you know. If when government would have been done, I said I've checked over 11 dormant streets in Roseau Central. I've proposed that 1 or 2 can be used as emergency lanes, where you could have probably the fire service actually storing some of their small vehicles there, their jeeps in water. So in case you have a fire outbreak in the lower part of Roseau, and it's let's say it's about 1 o'clock, you know how difficult it is when the road is busy during the rush hours, that you cannot get from the fire station to Lower Roseau. They would have been already stationed there and they could have the ability to out fires in the lower part of Roseau. Emergency lane could mean a lot of things. You could have probably some kind of ambulance there in case tourists, you know, get sick, people get sick. You can administer at least stabilization right there. So there are things. I make the proposal about the market. You heard me, you know. I've been saying it. And, you know, I saw you can have the market as a free tier market. You have the engineers, they could go and do their sound check to see whether or not the market can really take a free for floors. That they will do. If it cannot do it, then they know what they have to do, start from scratch. And 1 tier is about fresh produce. And you have what they call an incorporation of your cold chain below, where you have make sure that you have refrigerated containers so that when persons have not finished sold their produce, they can refrigerate them to keep them at reasonable temperature so that there's no threat with respect to food contamination. I said the second floor could have been used for craft and other local produce. And I also made the point that we can have a 3rd floor where we call where we could be brewing coffee. Everyone in Dominica should be compelled to come out to brew coffee. We look at people who go and who jog in the morning. They should not really take in coffee at their home. They should smell the coffee as they jog. So when they finish jog, they can just go down there, socialize for a few minutes before they go to work, drink their coffee. And you could also integrate that, not just with coffee, but you could integrate it with other teas and so, our cocoa and other delicacies that we have and other, spices and so. Even when the tourist boat comes, they will smell coffee. And Dave, the other day, you were telling me that you had some tourists and one German guy told you, where can I get coffee? Imagine that was by the bayfront there, that marked by the market. Then right away, they would have smelled it from the ship. And I also talk about a terrace, which is a 4th floor, that you can have Dominicans go socialize up there. You could do moon watching, you could have dances, you could have people socializing, and to just have restaurants up on that place there. And so different cuisines will be there. So it's not that we are not talking about, we have spoken about parking. I've all talked about, we have 1 street lanes. We should also have 1 side parking. 1 side parking would mean that at all times you have access to offload and load by the business places. And at all times the ambulance can pass and the emergency vehicles can pass. Police can go about their business. So there are a lot of proposals. We talk about the gardens. I said straight, and I've said it before, that the gardens is a highway. The gardens should not be used as a highway. We need to ruralize the gardens. We talk about putting the road where it's supposed to have been and stop the parking in the gardens. And we can, when we ruralize the gardens, because the gardens have more sun than shade, we need to make sure that we maximize on the shade by planting what we call shade-tolerant crops like ginger, so that we can use ginger, grow ginger there, grind the ginger in a lab there, show the tourists how to grind it, show them they can have pay-per-view or pay to participate. You grind the ginger when it is ready, you bag the ginger, you have ginger powder, you have ginger confectionaries, you sell it out, and that can sustain itself. Another shade-tolerant crop is vanilla. We could have vanilla confectionaries. We could have vanilla essence. We could have different things. So we need to commercialize aspects of Roseau, get the vendors out of the street and clean up Roseau. So there's a holistic plan with respect to what we have been proposing in Roseau Central. And don't talk for the parking. I am not interested and I will not support penal measures before we can put real measures in place for parking. You don't put meters there until you can give people alternative parking. And I know there were studies with respect to how they will go about parking. That probably needs to be revisited. And I'm sure we will find some alternative way for parking. So by and large, we have been proposing, you call have been hearing it from time to time. So I just wanted to give you that kind of response with respect to how we're approaching things in Roseau. So it's not that we are not speaking about it. We are not in government. You don't expect me to find money anywhere to do it. And I made the final point that we could even be the solar capital of Roseau. Roseau could be solar capital of the Caribbean, because every roof, every shape of roof in Roseau can take a solar panel. Every roof can have rooftop gardens. So I made the point clear, and it is not, let's say, something fixed in stone, but these are some of the ideas that we can integrate with the Roseau integration plan and to make Roseau the envy of the Caribbean. But Doc, I'll let you respond. And Dave, you've heard the caller. What do you want to say about what he has said?
Well, certainly, so in terms of improving Roseau, in terms of making Roseau the envy, I mean, that needs to be done like yesterday. It is really, really unfortunate, the condition of Roseau today. It does not encourage you to come into town. I come into town when I have to be honest. The city is not where it should be. And that's why I like your ideas about, the green spaces. I like your ideas about transforming this city, taking care of the parking issue, the traffic problem, the congestion, the number of businesses, or not only businesses, but buildings, abandoned buildings, and so on, derelict buildings. A serious and work has to be done with this. Clearing out those buildings, probably imposing a sanction or a price on the owners. If not, that probably can be held temporarily by the government or by some entity that would be formed to take care of those abandoned properties so that they can be transformed into something, else than what they are now. So there's a lot that needs to be done in Roseau. It absolutely needs this, for the city of a nature island, is just a concrete pack, really. And I believe a lot can be done in that area. And that's the reason why I like some of the ideas that you have and what the party, in fact, is thinking of doing in terms of transforming this city of Roseau.
Yes, Doc. Even what the gentleman said about the pumpkin flower. There was a young man, from St. Vincent, some time back. I was in Calibishi, and he made some bread for me with the pumpkin flour, and so that was really nice. You know what I'm saying? That is maybe one of the best I've eaten.
Yeah.
He actually he told me, Dave, I'm gonna do that for you, right? And that was one of the best I've eaten. I'm telling you, pumpkin flour bread. So these are ideas, and these are people that need the push, that they are not getting. They need the push, but they're not getting that push to really develop themselves and expand. I mean, I know several young entrepreneurs who they need that kind of guidance. They need that kind of injection. They need that kind of finance, to promote, to help to promote their business and to grow their business bigger. And the government just doesn't do anything for them. I mean, when I hear the Minister of Agriculture talking about trying to get $700,000 by 2030, Doc, right? $700,000 in agriculture, but you have PAL reps who have fertilizer.
700 million.
And give
700 million.
Yeah, 700 million by 2030. That's what he's expecting. But when you have PAL reps that is giving inputs in the nighttime, one bag of fertilizer for the, and to their liquor supporters. I mean, how do you expect to grow it? How do you expect to grow agriculture like that? In the time of bananas, everybody would come to the depot and get the bananas, their inputs, and get the sufficient amount of inputs so that they could grow the crops, the bananas, and get it in the right time. These days is, you give your pal rep some fertilizer and you have to be begging them, please, give me something. We cannot develop a country like that. And I think it's time that the government recognize that and stop that nonsense. They need to stop that nonsense, right? And I mean, I see farmers on their knees, I see that happening, begging for fertilizer, But all these things will stop one of these days, right? All these things will stop one of these days. But it's when the people decide that they're going to make the change. I have a good friend in Fonkole, and he always tell me, Dave, is the people. It is the people that have to decide. He doesn't blame the government, It's the people. But then I just try to tell him, bro, but if the people trust the government and put the government there, the government have to work for the people, right? But he always go back and say, Dave, is the people, right? So I believe him is the people that have to decide the kind of government they want.
Yes, and I agree. And we're already out of time, but let me just say too, the caller made mention of, government should get involved. Let me tell the caller straight off, this government is not capable of handling anything. And knowing that it's public money they're going to spend when government have it, they're abusing it. I'm going to give you two examples. The government, when they do fertilizer distribution and management, it failed. They fail agriculture with that. The government went into abattoir, before the meat ready, all ministers going for their meat. We cannot have a business like that in government. And what I think is the approach, once upon a time, we had a thriving private sector. We need to incentivize the private sector, get the engine of growth rolling again in the private sector, encourage persons who have money sitting in the bank and maybe not even making anything, because right away now we're not even encouraging to put money in the bank. You better invest it, because not to say you're getting a big return or dividends on your money. So I think once you would be able to put policies in place that people can agree that their money will not go in investment to waste, people will go for it with the necessary incentives available. You can't let people go on their own. So caller, I agree. You talk about government can work there, what they call a private-public partnership that we can encourage, but not putting anything more in government hand. Gentlemen, we are already out of time. And, Doc, I know in our closing, we will play our Baba Huli. We don't get a really good chance to play it. But yes, Dave, your final remarks as we close, because we have come to the end of our time in terms of the program. Your final words, Dave.
Yes. Yes. So I mean, it was really a pleasure. It was short, because I myself had my little tour today, and I'm always a busy guy, So I just want to reach out, to all my people in the constituency. I want to reach out to my good friend Jabi. You know Jabi so.
Oh,
now he's in Silver Lake. He tell me, Dave, I always listen. Also, I always listen.
Okay, that's good.
Yeah, shout him up, man. Yeah. So I just want to tell all my constituents to hold strong, and better days are coming. Better days are coming. We will be having our meeting on Saturday, and I'm expecting a big turnout because we have a plan. I'm asking everybody to come out and let us be there on time, so that we can start on time, so that everybody can go home, because it will be a little distance, to travel back to your homes on time. One more thing that I want to say is registration again has opened.
Oh, yes.
And we want to tell all my constituents, the new voters, they can go out and get themselves registered. For those who have to be confirmed, get all yourselves confirmed. Don't say only waiting for the last minute. Avoid the rush. Get yourself confirmed, right? So that we can make that change that we need in this country, because this country is really not going down a good path, So let us make this thing happen. Let's make something happen. All right, so.
Yes, thank you.
Good night, everybody.
Yes, so thanks a lot. I was reflecting more deeply on the way we started the program about, what lies ahead for us in Dominica, as far as our relationship with the United States, as far as the visa issues, the green card issues, the access to the United States. And I just did a little bit of searching, and I came across a very interesting article there,
Yes.
from Bloomberg from last year
Right.
that talked about this individual we talked about, Hayek, Hugo Hayek. He also went by the name of Hugo Hector.
Wow, heck, where you get that English name?
He used Hector. But hear what one of the leading business magazines in the United States had to say about a year ago. Shamkhani, that's the same Hugo guy, and his team's acquisition of Dominican documents was part of a series of moves that enabled Iranians to gain broad acceptance, including from Wall Street banks and major Western oil companies. So, in other words, what they're saying is that it's because of his use of the Dominican passport, he was able to set up those bank accounts in Washington. He was able to trade in oil, trade in arms, get armed because there were sanctions on Russia after the Ukrainian war. He was able to bypass all of that. So bypass Russian sanctions, bypass Iranian sanctions, because he was able to use his false names to set up accounts and transfer money across. So Dominica, I believe, is culpable in this. And that's one of the reasons why we are suffering the way we are. That's one of the reasons why people are saying, why Dominica, why Antigua? Well, that's part of the reason why the U.S. has taken that stance against Dominica. It is hard to see us getting out of this without more pain and suffering to the Dominican public. All right. Having said that, let me. Do I play our
Yes.
thing now? So let me encourage Dominicans to come out. And Dave, thanks for coming as well. I know you had, I put you under some pressure tonight there, but our other guests could not make it. We had invited 2 other individuals to come, and they could not. So I thought I could always, count on you to show up, and I'm thankful that you're able to come nonetheless.
Yep,
All right,
yep.
so let me encourage all of us to come out. We'll see you on Saturday. Remember, from 3 o'clock, you can come and hang out. We'll be there from 3 in the afternoon, but the program starts at 6:30 that night. So let's listen to this.
In Saturday, March 23rd, a massive crowd of patriotic Dominicans will gather to hear and to be informed of the state of Dominica. Team Dominica, the United Workers' Party, with thousands of dedicated supporters. Cost of living in Dominica is suffocating. Saturday, March 21st, join the United Workers' Party. The silent majority is ready. From the north, the south, the east, and the west, an impactful lineup revealing shocking revelations. Confidence for liberation and salvation. People in Dominica are frustrated, disappointed, and betrayed. You are not alone. The masses will converge in live Saturday, March 21. Come join the crowd, be part of history with the UWP. The United Workers' Party power must change hands. This election cycle, it's all the way with the United Workers' Party surprising revelations. Country is hot.
Baba Ule.
Baba Ule, Baba Ule, we cannot afford yam. Baba Ule, Baba Ule.
Yes, Doc. Yes, so this has been the Workers' Voice. Let me just thank everyone who participated tonight. And like everything else, we bring it to you, Dominicans. You have heard it. We have a government to continue to fail us and to let us be in misery. The decision is in your hands, but you can only do so if you are part of the voting process. And we urge you again to get confirmed. And for those of you who have attained the age of 18, and for first-time voters, we ask that you go to get registered to have this government out of our back. Until next time, we say good night. Good night, Doc. Thank you very much, Dave. Thank you, Doc, for your presence. Until next time, we say thank you. Good night.
All right, good night.
Let's get together to fight this whole Sit down by the corner, feel the day. Sunshine on my shoulder, watch the gray. No boss in my ear, no angry sound. Only reggae echo all around. Like a breeze of freedom blowing through the town. Lift me up so easy, never let me down. Open up your window, let the good vibe in. Every little heartbeat dancing with the wind. Shoes might be old, but the step feels new. Laughing with the crew, nothing else to do. Talking about our dreams under lazy skies. No one gonna tell us how to live our lives.
Like a breeze of miscalculated or maybe underestimated the Iranian response in terms of how they could regenerate and continue fighting as well. And is there a concern maybe that they could be even more hardline than the previous generation?
Short answer, there is a growing consensus amongst analysts that yes, President Trump likely misjudged key aspects of Iran's response, particularly its willingness to escalate. He has said he was very surprised that they hit facilities in Gulf states. Perhaps the core assumption by the Trump administration behind these strikes was the killing of the Ayatollah, that would lead to a sort of fracture in the Iranian system or collapse. And we're seeing that the Iranian state is perhaps more durable than they anticipated. And we could hear that frustration from President Trump recently. So perhaps, yes, analysts would say that President Trump misread Iran's escalation doctrine and also potentially misjudged the length and cost of this war. Now, the Pentagon has said it plans to request an extra $200 billion for this war from Congress, and that has brought mixed reaction from both sides of the political spectrum. It is likely to receive all the votes it's needed to be approved, but Democrats have criticized the size of this request, and there are worries amongst Republicans that it's going to severely affect the party come the November midterm elections.
Okay, Simi, appreciate your time. Simi Geloso reporting there from Washington. Well, Mr. Trump's public criticism of Mr. Netanyahu put the markets in freefall yet again. So how's it all playing out in the US economy? I put that question to our business correspondent, Michelle Fleury.
We continue to see volatility, stocks falling. Brent crude briefly sort of touched about $119. But then we had language later on in the day from the Israeli leader, Benjamin Netanyahu, and that seemed to sort of signal to traders that maybe there was an attempt to try and step back from what some had seen as an escalation, and that meant that oil prices fell back down to around $107 a barrel.
With Donald Trump appearing to distance himself from those comments from Benjamin Netanyahu, I guess going on what you said, it can help in the coming days, depending on how long this continues for.
Look, I mean, it helps sentiment. The focus initially had been on the Strait of Hormuz, but now you were seeing potentially the battlefield expand to, economic attacks on energy production. And that is a different ballgame. I mean, Qatar, for example, is responsible for 20% of the world's gas supply. In retaliation, Iran attacked their facility at Ras Laffan. Now, when the shipping